right, I'm so excited to be here tonight. I love to walk. Every day I walk from my home in Mount Pleasant to my office in Kitsilano. It's always perfect, and it's on the days when I intentionally choose to take a new route that I see new things, that inspire new ideas, that allow me to imagine new possibilities. Walking has taught me that the paths we've taken to get us to where we are today, and that have taught us what we presently know, are likely not the paths that are going to lead us to where we aspire to be. So, for the next 6 minutes and 30 seconds, I invite you to consider a world where charity, designed to help the poor, no longer exists in its current form. My personal inquiry into the possibility of a new approach to charity began in 2007 on my first trip to Ethiopia with Imagine One Day. Now, just to give you some context, I grew up in the 80s when guys like this shaped my perception of Ethiopia. Not only did they convince me that choosing not to finish the food on my dinner plates at the age of 10 was somehow depriving children on the other side of the world, I was also guided towards a belief that it would forever be my responsibility to help these needy children. Like, the problem was not going to go away. So, at the age of 32, a recovering chartered accountant seeking meaning in my life, I stepped off of a plane in Addis Ababa ready to save the world. I was prepared for the worst. Instead, I saw rainbows. I saw children smiling. I saw crops of wheat and grains I'd never heard of before growing in mountainous fields. I tasted the most delicious coffee and I listened to the sweetest jazz. I experienced a welcoming, accessible country full of possibility. I learned that the people of Ethiopia envision a future that positions them as active players in our global economy. And they're investing heavily in the education of their children to achieve their vision of being a middle-income country by 2025. You can imagine how knowing this, made our goal of education for every child in Ethiopia seem easy by 2020. But what also struck me was the overwhelming culture of dependence that prevails in Ethiopia. It conflicts with the country's strong vision for its future, and I began to wonder how this construct came to be, and more importantly, why it persists today. Now, I'm not here to enter the debate that's occurring in media over the value and effectiveness of foreign aid, but what I am interested in exploring is whether we, as charities, are actually inhibiting the change we wish to see because of the way we're telling our stories and engaging our donors. As someone heading up yet another charity working in Africa, I realized early on that if we're going to be of any help at all, we need to rethink how we engage people in our work on both sides of the coin. So at Imagine One Day, we started to experiment and we dissected the charitable model. What we found were people with means giving to people without means. What we saw was a one-way transaction where to give meant giving something up. It appeared to be a model of depletion, and we believe that charity could have a way greater impact on the world by being an impetus for abundance, locally and globally, no matter where the charity was working. We set out to explore how we could engage people not on a level of the problem that has defined them, or by way of a problem that their resources could solve, but rather by supporting each participant in a charitable transaction in discovering their own unique contribution to the world. So you can imagine setting up a new charitable model, right? It's really easy. Here's what we did. We threw our feet up against the wall and we declared a new currency of giving and receiving. At Imagine One Day, we call it creatribution. Modeled after a business principle called the hedgehog, it invites you to contribute to the world by exploring what you love to do and what you're great at. It's your sweet spot, where your passion, your talent, and your creativity intersect. On the part of Imagine One Day, it requires a commitment to supporting each creatributor in being rigorously selfish about how their contribution will serve their passion and their life. Here's an example. Lacey Norton is passionate about art. Through her creatribution called Submit, she's giving the Vancouver art community an opportunity to impact the world. So Submit's a t-shirt design contest that exposes the work of artists through social media and to a judging panel of retail designers, creative directors, gallery owners. And last year, the winning design was featured on an Imagine One Day t-shirt, the proceeds of which funded a classroom of a school in Ethiopia. Lacey, by following her passion, Lacey generated exponentially more for herself, for her local art community, and for a community on the other side of the world than she could have possibly done by simply writing a check. I can also tell you about Tracy and her creatribution called Sofa Sessions, a series of intimate living room concerts featuring Vancouver musicians. Or Graham, lawyer by day, food lover by night, who created Dished, an underground supper club happening right here in Vancouver, as well as in Calgary and soon to be Los Angeles and Paris, I hear. And over in Ethiopia, a young girl called Leah from one of our schools at Imagine One Day, who expressed her passion for dance and inspired an art program in her school and 7 others in her district. So moving away from the current charitable paradigm, Imagine One Day is distinguishing itself as a community that's expanding through shared experiences and inspired connections. Here's what we're learning. People being supported in living and breathing their passion and learning how that can become a contribution to the world makes for a super fun, super creative, and very diverse interaction. The best part about it from my perspective is that anyone is qualified to participate in this game. In creatribution, everyone is treated as an operator. The result is that they're totally invested in the outcome of their contribution, and they demand the highest level of transparency, which is really what charities, should be providing anyway. And through creatribution, people are discovering how their unique contribution can actually become a business venture, thus fueling their local economy. Creatribution has become a training ground for entrepreneurs to take risks, to fail, to succeed, and ultimately to develop as leaders in their own community. Most importantly for us at Imagine One Day, creatribution is helping us shape a new story for Ethiopia. No longer are we identifying with a marginalized group of people on the other side of the world, nor are Ethiopians identifying with wealth on this side of the world. Instead, we're identifying with each other as people who are working in a shared commitment to designing a new story for our future. This is a model of abundance. By its nature, creatribution is designed to elevate first the creatributor, then their local community, and finally, the world. These days, as I walk the streets of Vancouver, what I'm most excited about is what creatribution has in store for this amazing city. Thank you. Thank you, Sam.